I was 6 months pregnant when my mother-in-law told me, "You're raising that baby in my house my way." Then she handed my husband a list of rules. "You better keep her in line," she said. He nodded. I sat in silence as they planned my child's life without me. But after one final insult, I took the baby bag, walked out, and 3 months later, I filed a document that made their jaws drop. I was 6 months pregnant when my mother-in-law looked me in the face and told me, "You're raising that baby in my house my way." Then she handed my husband a list of rules like it was a contract. 27 rules, typed out, printed, and highlighted. Then she said, "You better keep her in line." And he nodded like a damn soldier. That's when I knew I was completely alone. But this didn't start overnight. I should have seen it coming. We moved into her house just outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, after I lost my job during my second trimester. I was working in healthcare billing, but the morning sickness and back pain were wrecking me. I'd already used all my PTO, and my supervisor made it clear they weren't going to accommodate extended discomfort. So when James suggested we stay with his mom for a few months to save money, I agreed.
Stupidly.
Sharon, his mom, acted sweet at first. She made dinners, bought baby books, and said how excited she was to be a grandma. But there was always something sharp behind her smile. The first red flag was how she always referred to the baby as hers. "I can't wait for my baby to get here. My baby's going to love this stroller." That kind of thing. I tried brushing it off. Then she started taking over. She ordered furniture for the nursery without asking. One day I came back from an appointment, and the room I had been slowly setting up was completely redone. New curtains, new crib, even different wall art. She said, "Don't worry, I saved the receipts for the junk you picked out." When I told James the first didn't like that she changed things without asking, he said, "She means well. She's just excited." It became his go-to excuse. Then she started criticizing what I ate. Too many carbs. "You're not drinking enough milk." She actually took my prenatal vitamins one day and replaced them with a brand she thought was better. No warning, no discussion. One night, I was sitting on the couch after throwing up dinner, and she walked in holding a printed paper. She dropped it on the table in front of James. "These are the house rules once the baby's born." I picked it up, and my hands shook as I read it. "No visitors for the first 4 weeks unless I approve. Baby must be baptized Catholic. No pacifiers, no sleep training until 6 months. Only my homemade baby food. No jars. I will be present at all doctor appointments." It went on and on. James didn't say a word. Just sat there, reading it like it was a work memo. Then Sharon said, "You better keep her in line." And he nodded.
Not even a glance at me.
I felt something break in me. They started planning things right in front of me. Talking about which church to use for the baptism. Whether we should start a savings account in Sharon's name for the baby's future. I sat there in silence, my body growing this child, and yet I felt like a stranger in the conversation. After that, it got worse. She installed a camera in the nursery for safety. Said she wanted to be able to check in if she was out of the house. I told James that was insane. He said it was a little much, but didn't take it down. I started sleeping with the door locked. Sharon didn't like that either. She started waking me up by knocking hard and yelling, "I need to check on the room." She was obsessed with control. I began secretly packing a baby bag. One item at a time. Diapers. A bottle. A few changes of clothes. I stashed it in the trunk of my car. The last straw came one afternoon when I was folding baby clothes in the living room. Sharon walked in, picked up the name list I'd spent weeks working on, looked it over, and said, "These names are ridiculous." Then she crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash. "We'll pick something normal. You'll thank me later." I didn't say a word. I just walked upstairs, grabbed my coat, picked up the baby bag from my car, and drove off. I had nowhere to go, but a woman I met at a prenatal yoga class had once told me, "If you ever need space, my guest room's open." I took a chance. She opened the door and saw the look on my face. "You're safe here," she said.
And I broke down crying.
I stayed with her through the final trimester. Had my baby in peace. And when I was ready, I filed something that made their jaws drop and changed everything. The first few weeks after I left, James called me nonstop. At first it was just voicemails, "Please come back." She didn't mean it like that. "We can talk." I didn't respond. Then, the messages got angry. "You're acting crazy. You're keeping my child from me. You don't get to make all the decisions." I wasn't keeping him from the baby. I told him where I was. I told him he could come see the birth. But I also told him his mother wasn't welcome. That's when he stopped calling. He didn't show up at the hospital. Not for labor. Not for the birth. Not even a text. It was just me, the nurse, and Olivia. That's what I named her. She was 6 pounds, 10 ounces. I cried the first time I held her, not just from love, but from relief. No cameras. No rules. No voices telling me how I was doing it wrong. A week later, a certified letter arrived at the yoga friend's house. It was from James. Or rather, his lawyer. He was filing for temporary custody. Said I had abandoned the marital home and was preventing him and his mother from participating in the child's life. His mother. Not even him. Her. I got a lawyer. It wiped out most of my savings. But I had no choice. We submitted evidence, the camera installation, the list of rules, text messages, and my medical records showing stress-related complications during the pregnancy. My lawyer warned me, "They're going to play the stability card. They'll say you're jobless, couch surfing unstable." So I moved out of my friend's place and into a month-to-month rental with another single mom who had a spare room. I applied for part-time remote work and started therapy. I documented everything. Meanwhile, James and Sharon ramped things up. They started telling people I was unstable, that I had postpartum depression, that I ran off with a man I met in yoga class. I found out she tried to contact my OB/GYN to get a copy of Olivia's birth certificate. The clinic called me immediately. She said she was the legal guardian. The nurse whispered on the phone, like she couldn't believe it herself. I added it to the case file. Then Sharon showed up at the pediatrician's office without warning, asking to attend Olivia's first checkup. The front desk staff had already flagged her. She didn't get in, but she made a scene. Police were called. More documentation. I never knew how far people would go until I saw a 63-year-old woman screaming at nurses because she thought being a grandma gave her rights. James still didn't visit. Not once. But he kept filing. At one point, they tried to force a mediation session. Sharon came with him. She sat there across the table from me, hands folded like a queen, and said, "She can live in our house. We'll provide everything. You'll have time to get back on your feet." I said, "I already am on my feet." She smiled and said, "Not for long." That was the moment I decided I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was going on offense. Just when I thought I had seen the worst of Sharon and James, the real twist came. 2 months into the custody battle, my lawyer called me, voice tight. "Do you have any idea what James just filed?" she asked. I said no. "He's claiming you're unfit because you have no income and no permanent housing, and he's using your medical records to claim your mental health is unstable." I froze. Then she said the kicker. "They've also filed a motion to grant Sharon grandparent visitation rights." I didn't even know that was possible in Pennsylvania, but apparently it is. Especially if the grandparent can argue that they've had a substantial relationship with the child or if it's in the child's best interest. She hadn't even seen my daughter. That's when I remembered the time she told me, almost proudly, that she had friends on the school board, a neighbor who's a judge, and connections in the community. At the time, I thought she was just bragging. Now I wasn't so sure. So I started digging. With the help of my therapist, who had been documenting everything, we pulled together a complete record of Sharon's controlling behavior, medical interference, boundary violations, and attempts to impersonate a legal guardian. My lawyer filed a countermotion not only to block visitation but to request a protective order against Sharon. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message on Facebook from someone I didn't know. Her name was Marcy. She said, "You don't know me, but I used to be married to James." I almost dropped my phone. She told me they were married for 2 years in their early 20s and had a miscarriage that broke them both. But what really ended the marriage was Sharon. She showed up unannounced, gave Marcy parenting advice, and even accused her of faking the miscarriage for sympathy. It was like being married to both of them, Marcy wrote. And he always picked her. She offered to write a statement for my lawyer. And she did. 5 pages long, notarized, describing almost the exact same pattern of control, manipulation, and emotional abuse I had lived through. Same Sharon. Same James. That testimony changed the tone in court. Suddenly, the judge was asking me more questions, asking them for proof. And when they couldn't answer, when Sharon couldn't explain why she had tried to get Olivia's medical files without permission, the judge asked her to leave the room. James was forced to sit there, alone, and admit on the record that he hadn't seen his daughter once since she was born. He blamed work, then not knowing where we were, then being told not to come. But I had texts, I had emails, I had receipts. He had nothing. The judge didn't rule that day. But something shifted, and it was far from over. 3 weeks after the hearing, the judge made a decision. James was denied temporary custody. The court cited lack of involvement, failure to provide support, and unstable living conditions, not mine, his. Turns out Sharon had taken out a second mortgage on her house, and their finances were a mess. The court didn't like that he brought her to every legal meeting either. But the big one, the one that made both their faces go blank, was this. The judge granted me full legal and physical custody of Olivia, and issued a protective order against Sharon. She was barred from coming within 200 feet of me or Olivia for a minimum of 3 years. The judge said her actions showed a pattern of obsessive, controlling behavior and emotional manipulation that posed a threat to the mother's well-being and the child's future stability. I felt like I could breathe again, for the first time in months. That wasn't the end, though. Revenge didn't come in one clean moment. It came in pieces. I filed for divorce the next day. James didn't even contest it. I think deep down he knew he was in too deep with her. The papers were signed in silence. No fight. No apology. Just a man who finally realized what he lost. A month later, I went back to work, remote billing, part-time at first, then full-time. I got approved for a small apartment near Camp Hill, with just enough space for me and Olivia. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. One day, I got a letter from Sharon. Handwritten. No return address. Just a few lines. You think you won, but Olivia will grow up and see the truth. I didn't respond. Instead, I saved it, scanned it, logged it with my lawyer. It wasn't a threat, not legally, but it showed she still believed she had a claim on my daughter's life, that she would never stop seeing Olivia as hers. So I made a final move. I filed a petition to legally change Olivia's last name to mine. It passed. No more Sharon's bloodline stamped onto my daughter. No more connection.
No legacy.
Just me and my baby girl, free from that twisted grip. Years later, Olivia asked me why she didn't have the same last name as her dad. I told her the truth. Simple and clean. Because I wanted you to grow up safe. And I did everything I had to make that happen. She nodded. She didn't ask again. As for James, last I heard, he moved in with Sharon full-time. Never remarried. They live alone in that same house, the same nursery still set up, untouched. Like a shrine to a child they never had control over. My revenge wasn't loud. It didn't come with shouting or breaking things. It came in quiet victories. In court rulings. In paperwork. In the sound of Olivia laughing in the next room, untouched by their poison. And in knowing that every time Sharon sees a little girl on the street, she wonders if that's her. And remembers that she lost. Because I walked away. And I never looked back.